13 News Now begins with breaking news.
That breaking news coming from Wall Street tonight, where the Dow closed down more than 1,000 points for the second time this week.
It's now dropped 10% from the record high it reached just 2 weeks ago. Economists had been warning that a drop-off was likely because the market was so strong.
Over the last 5 days of trading, the Dow has only added in the green one day. That was Tuesday, when it ended up more than 550 points. All right, parents, your kindergartner could be soon spending more time in the classroom.
Yeah, that's right. Virginia Beach leaders are proposing adding full-day kindergarten to 12 more schools.
13 News Now reporter Allie Weatherton spoke to parents about the idea. She joins us live from Virginia Beach. Allie.
Well, David, obviously you want to see your kids live up to their full potential, and that's what parents say the full-day kindergarten would do for their kids. It would get them ready, get them learning on their way to first grade.
Tell you what it is.
It would definitely help our children long term to have that extra time in school.
The proposed plan
I'm going to make it harder this time. Are you ready?
is to add full-day kindergarten classes to more elementary schools.
I think it would be a great idea for them to do that because that way the kids can learn a lot more. They're not rushed to learn everything in a short period of time.
Last year, Virginia Beach Public Schools had 11 schools start the full-day kindergarten program. Chief Academic Officer Amy Cashwell says they want to keep that ball moving by adding 12 more.
Our focus as a school division has been on personalized learning and really meeting individual student needs and getting to know them as a whole child, meeting them academically and social emotionally.
The overall goal, to get all kindergarten classes in Virginia Beach on the full-day schedule in the next couple of years.
When students are present all day, there's an opportunity to do a lot more individual work with students and small group work with students. And also, they're really able to help students see the connection across subject areas. So
Cashwell says the funding is there to add 12 elementary schools to the full day. The school board will hold several meetings over the next couple of weeks to discuss the proposal. If approved, leaders will announce the schools that will have the full-day kindergarten. Now coming up on 13 News Now at 6, hear how they actually determine what school will get full-day kindergarten. Live in Virginia Beach, Allie Weatherton, 13 News Now.
Developing tonight in Williamsburg, we're working to learn more about a person who was hit by a train. It happened around 2:30 this afternoon on a track between York Street and Penniman Road. Police tell us the person who was hit is male, but we don't know how old he is. He was taken to Riverside Doctors Hospital at first, but then transported to MCV. Stay with 13 News Now for updates on air and online as we learn more throughout the evening.
Developing tonight in Washington, the clock is ticking. In just 7 hours, the government could shut down for the second time this year. The Senate has passed its version of a bipartisan spending bill to avoid the shutdown. We'll break that down in a moment. But the House still hasn't acted. That's in part because Republicans don't want to pass a bill that raises the deficit, but also because Democrats are angry the deal doesn't address dreamers. And those are the undocumented immigrants who were brought to the country when they were children. So could it be the financial breakthrough that the nation has been waiting for years, or could it just be more of the same? 13 News Now reporter Mike Gooding joins us now with what might be very good news for Hampton Roads or very bad.
Well, that's right, Jen. I wish we could be a little more definitive at this hour. The bipartisan Senate budget deal would mean millions of dollars in new defense spending that would ripple through our local economy here. Or the House could balk, and by midnight tonight, there could be back to where we were just a few weeks ago in another government shutdown. More Navy ships built, more ships repaired. After years of temporary spending measures, the bipartisan deal hammered out by Senate leaders would result in an actual 2-year budget. That includes a massive increase to the military by increasing spending caps by 21%. ODU economics professor Bob McNabb says the Hampton Roads economy would benefit greatly.
It's excellent news for Hampton Roads. We'll see an immediate bump in defense spending this fiscal year, and of that bump, we would expect several $billion to land in Hampton Roads over the next 6 months. The immediate effect would be a lift in economic activity. So we'd see more people hired, we'd see more ships being repaired, we'd see more aircraft being repaired, more activity overall for the defense sector in Hampton Roads.
President Trump is now voicing support for the deal, tweeting, "It ends the dangerous sequester and gives Secretary Mattis what he needs to keep America great." But in the House, conservative Republicans and liberal Democrats have balked at the deal. And if there are enough no votes there, the whole deal could fall apart, which McNabb says would be a very bad thing for the Hampton Roads economy.
If midnight comes and it all falls apart, then we're back to another partial government shutdown. These are not small events when the government shuts down for Hampton Roads.
So if the Senate deal does get okayed, it would add another $500 billion in spending on top of the more than $1 trillion tax bill that was recently passed. Professor McNabb says the deficit is going to explode, adding, "We do need to get our fiscal house in order." Reporting live, Mike Gooding, 13 News Now.
New information tonight from the state capitol, where a Senate committee has passed a bill that would let heavier trucks drive on Virginia roads. We first told you about the proposal earlier this week. The bill would let trucks with 6 axles carrying nearly 100,000 pounds of cargo on interstates. That's about 10,000 pounds more than what's allowed now. Supporters of the bill say it would help boost economies in port communities like Norfolk, of course. But opponents argue heavier trucks are simply too dangerous for congested roads.
State lawmakers are debating a bill that critics say would cause your power bill to go up. Dominion Energy wants to divert customer refund money into projects that would update Virginia's electrical grid. 13 News Now reporter Jacqueline Lee is here to explain why.
Janet, supporters argue over the long haul you'll end up saving money because Virginia's electrical grid would operate more efficiently. But critics like the State Corporation Commission aren't buying it.
Across the board, this is a compromise.
Senator Frank Wagner argued on the Senate floor this afternoon why his bill should pass. It would allow Dominion Energy to divert customer refund money to pay for projects like upgrading the state's electrical grid.
You just can't put power on everywhere without making an investment in the grid to allow that power to actually flow. So you don't. These investments have to be made.
Governor Northam's office agrees, saying over time it will put more money in your pocket by investing in energy efficiency. The bill, if passed, would immediately issue customers $200 million in refunds. But Senator Chapman Peterson argued that's not the whole picture.
But what we're allowing them to do is double dip. They avoid paying the refund to the customer, plus they put the project into the rate base so they recover these profits all the way down the line.
In this letter, the State Corporation Commission confirms this. After analyzing the bill, the agency said it would hinder its authority to evaluate whether these projects are cost effective, leading to billions of additional costs for you.
Senator Peterson tried and failed to make amendments to the bill today. It will go before the floor again tomorrow for a final vote. Live in studio, Jacqueline Lee. 13 News Now.
All right, Jacqueline, thank you. Well, lawmakers are also considering a bill that would extend sales taxes on ride-sharing services like Uber and Lyft. The Senate Finance Transportation Subcommittee approved the bill with a 4-2 vote. The senators who introduced the legislation say it would raise more than $21 million every year for mass transit systems across Virginia. And the Senate today also passed a bill hoping to protect people's pets from harsh weather. Bill says that tethering a pet outside is not giving it adequate shelter in certain situations. Those include temperatures below freezing or above 85 degrees when there's a heat advisory or during any severe weather warning. And if you do tether a pet outside, you have to give them enough space, about 4 times the length of the animal.
Now to the latest on an international parental kidnapping case. A father in Texas trying to get his son back after his ex-wife brought the child to Brazil in 2013. The case taking a turn after the child's grandparents were arrested here in the U.S. ABC's Marcy Gonzalez is following the developments.
Dr. Chris Brand fighting to bring his 8-year-old son Nico home to Houston. He says the boy was taken by his mother, Marcel Guimarães, to her native Brazil 5 years ago for what was supposed to be a visit. But according to prosecutors, Guimarães has since refused to bring him back.
I always felt like that if I could just see him, if I could just be in his life, that he wouldn't forget me. If there's anything that gets me a step closer to having my son home, then I'm all for it.
And he may be closer because of what experts call an unprecedented development in the case. FBI agents arresting Nico's grandparents, Carlos and Jemima Guimarães, when they landed in Miami this week. Prosecutors charging them with international parental kidnapping and conspiracy for allegedly helping their daughter relocate Nico. Brand's ex-wife, still in Brazil, faces the same charges. Now with these arrests, this determined father feels he finally has some leverage.
You know, it was the first time really in 5 years that I had a glimmer of hope that maybe my son might come home.
And Nico's grandparents are now being held in a federal detention facility. A bail hearing is scheduled for Monday, and they could each face up to 5 years in prison if convicted. Marcy Gonzalez, ABC News, Los Angeles.